Mark Reckless, UKIP's candidate in the constituency of Rochester in Kent, a seat he won last year in a by-election after defecting from the Conservative Party. And unlike your fellow defector Douglas Carswell, you're not in the manifesto. They don't seem to be celebrating you, and you weren't at its launch.
Well, we very kindly quote a line I think I used at the speech in Doncaster when I moved over and joined UKIP, which was that Britain is more than a star on somebody else's flag. And I enjoyed quite a lot of long hours and hard work assisting with that manifesto and the fantastic professional product you see, and just all credit to Suzanne Evans and her team for that work.
Well, one of the other things which we still haven't really got an answer to is that the only ethnic face in the whole of this document is that of somebody who would be aided in some kind of overseas trade issue. No, everybody's white in this. Is that sending a signal somewhere?
Well, our immigration spokesperson, I think, is front and centre of the immigration section. He's half Irish and half African American, so I'm not quite sure why he isn't counted. But certainly at the by-election we had here, I was just so encouraged by the spread and the variety of backgrounds and different ethnicities that so many people came with enormous enthusiasm to campaign for me. And here in Medway, I was horrified to discover that we've never had a Sikh councillor, with Labour, Conservative, Lib Dems, the largest ethnic minority here, certainly in Rochester and Stroud, and they've never had anyone elected from that community. So I'm delighted, that with UKIP, that we hope for the first time actually to elect a Sikh representative to Medway Council. And UKIP is a party for all communities. We relish our ties with the Commonwealth and respect everyone, and encourage them to join us in fighting for an independent Britain.
Now, there's a pledge to get rid of the bedroom tax, as the opponents of it call it. But you voted for it when you were a Tory. I mean, what's happened to you?
I've sort of been in two minds about this issue myself. Here in Rochester and Stroud, I have had quite a lot of people when I was the MP who'd come to my surgery and who would raise issues with me with the bedroom tax and how it was affecting them unfairly, how perhaps they were disabled and needed to have a carer there, or they were sharing custody of children, were going to be put in a one-bedroom flat where they could never have their children to stay. And actually, when I raised those cases with Medway Council, in most, if not all of those, I was able to get people access to a special fund for hardship sort of cases, and was pleased to help my constituents in that way. But some of them felt that was almost asking for charity or special consideration. And I think the really difficult thing about the bedroom tax or the spare room subsidy, depending according to taste, is actually the smaller properties aren't available for people to move down to. So actually people on benefit have had to find extra money from that, often very difficult for them, in order to pay a higher rent.
Mr. Reckless, are you now feeling it was perhaps reckless to leave the Conservative Party?
No, not at all. I'm really proud of what UKIP have done today. It's an extraordinarily professional document, a really impressive range of new ideas. So many of the other manifestos are really quite anodyne and just business as usual from the establishment parties. We're out there putting in new ideas, whether on the NHS to get more GPs back to work, whether to bring back the state-enrolled nurse, whether to look after our military and actually help them in terms of getting jobs and work after they leave, and have a dedicated hospital, as well as keeping to that commitment for 2% of GDP set by NATO in a very dangerous world. And I actually feel today UKIP are driving the agenda and offering real change for our country. And I showed in Rochester that if people vote UKIP, they get UKIP.
Mr. Reckless, I'm sorry for the delay in this interview. It was very difficult to talk with you, but the castle's real, and you appear to be. And I ought to thank you, and also say that we will list the other candidates in his constituency on our website immediately, because you're not allowed to say that as often as he has.